Greetings. My name is Pablo R Velazquez, and today I will be presenting chapter 23 from the book Understanding Global Cultures, Metaphorical Journeys Throughout 28 Nations, Clusters of Nations, and Continents. Chapter 23, The Mexican Fiestas, is a chapter focused on the city of Mexico, the culture, the people, and the religious gatherings called Las Fiestas. The chapter starts off with an introduction of facts from the different ethnic groups in Mexico: the Indians, the Spanish, and the Mestizos, which is basically the mix of the two. Immediately, the chapter states the hard times that these three cultures have passed due to their torn culture. Conquered and in poverty, Mexico's primary focus remains on the people. Even though they do not forget the past, they do recognize and live in the present. In these fiestas, families unite to honor the dead and the living by getting dressed properly, putting on a mask, literally, and metaphorically, because when they put the mask, metaphorically speaking, they escape the person who they are and they live in the moment to honor those who have gone to the afterlife and those who still live. They dance, they drink, all to loud guitar music. The chapter touches concepts like Mexican time, Saint Monday, the admirance of virility and manliness in the male figures of the family, how they ran businesses profitably with employed family members to avoid uncertainty, because Mexican people in the earth, when they want to trust somebody with their businesses, they avoid people they do not know and tend to prefer people they have had previous experience with, so they avoid uncertain situations and go with people that they know. In these instances, mostly it is family members. And the chapter also touches on religion, work, the importance of death, family, and honoring. In my own personal experience, what I associated with me and this chapter, it was when the reading was discussing the neediness of these religious gatherings in spite of their economic or sentimental situation of the person, of the families. It reminded me like Puerto Rico. We look for any excuse to get together, dance, and or drink in social events. And also Mexican time and arriving on time being almost like an insult is a normal custom here in Puerto Rico. Uh, I have not visited Mexico, but I have watched documentaries on gang problems in Mexico, and hence I thought it would be mentioned in the chapter as gangsters and drug dealers are a shaping factor in the Mexican culture. And lesson and concept that I grasped from this readings was Saint Monday. That caught my attention. Mexicans feel free to be absent from work on Mondays. To them, weekends can be like we say in Spanish in Puerto Rico, fin de semana largo, a long weekend, any weekend. Although for Mexicans, this could be a righteous behavior or even worse, a pattern developed along the weeks. For any business owner or manager, this is an extremely irresponsible act which must be sanctioned. In Puerto Rico, some patrons can even suspend or fire the employee if they know there was no reasonable excuse for them not showing up to work. But in Mexico, it does not matter. You don't want to work on Monday? Take it off, don't worry. And I've always known that Mexicans honor and prioritize family above anything else. But I did not fully comprehend that if we are Mexican uh, and we do not share blood and we do not share names, uh, we can still be family. And that is why you see a lot of the slang that the Mexicans use as calling close friends hermano or primo, which is brother hermano or primo cousin, and as in as in if they are family. And that was something that I always knew that the slang was, oh, dímelo primo, yeah. but I never comprehended that it was because they feel that they are all a family and the importance of family in their cultures. The other thing that I found very curious was how male Mexican insecurity is manifested by his fear of betrayal of women. And because of how this chapter planted it, I assume that this insecurity is from or is a form of post-traumatic stress disorder, or like we know it, PTSD, from events of their cultural past. And the chapter reflecting, reacting, and recommending on the content of the chapter, it got me interested in the people of Mexico. That it really did, and in their fiestas. In Puerto Rico, we have fiestas de la calle San Sebastián. It is by the lines of these fiestas from Mexico. But instead of in the end of the year, like in Mexico, right around November, uh, in Puerto Rico, we do it in the beginning of the year, right around, depending on the year. Uh, but to go and visit Mexico would be marvelous. To visit it in November, it would be great to put on a mask and drink to the music, living the moment, all while enjoying the company of your family and honoring those who have passed on to the afterlife. It would be a great experience. But out of all the traits that we Puerto Ricans share with the Mexicans, I would say that one that was not discussed and should be disclosed in order to properly grasp the entire complexity of the cultures is the gangs and drug problems. Mexico and Puerto Rico both suffer from gang violence and drug wars. And drug related crimes, which lead to murder, robberies, trafficking, kidnapping, and in some instances, even overdoses. At the worst of it is that the government and police either cannot, will not, or do not do much to solve the matters. I would definitely recommend the inclusion of the problem with the gangs in Mexico into this chapter. It is the branches on which the tree of the fiestas grew upon, and it should at least, in common courtesy, be disclosed, because it will be not to raise fear, but to recognize and be conscious of the situation of the problem at present. Because in Mexico, if you're in one of those fiestas, easily a poor choice of words and a bad look could get anybody into trouble, especially under the influence of the circumstances. When you are listening to music in euphorical state, drinking alcohol, it can lead to a problem if you don't are not conscious that you cannot address some people in some way, because you never know if they you never really know anybody these days, and anybody could be part of a gang, or easily, if they didn't like how you looked at them or you stepped on their shoes, you could get in a lot of trouble. And this is something that when we are trying to understand global cultures and talking about Mexico, this is something that should be disclosed in order to fully understand the culture. And that is something that I would recommend for the author to include in this chapter. But I'm not taking away merit of the reading. It was a great reading, very informative, full with a lot of useful facts, and it's almost a bit refreshing, because we can see the similarities in the culture, and we can also see by contrast the opposites that we have in the culture. But we have more similarities, we Puerto Ricans, with the Mexicans than opposite traits, and that is largely due to our history. And this is why I liked this chapter, and I enjoyed it, the reading and the this presentation and the writing, because it's like I feel like I'm hermano of the Mexicans, and that was very refreshing, very enjoying. And I want to thank you all for your attention. And with this, my name is Pablo Velazquez. Thank you for everything, and is the closing.